Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. This is episode 19 of the Interplanetary Voyage of Exploration. In the previous episode we have successfully deployed the Kerbal and we have noticed new planets, Duna and Jool. Right now I'm using the mod Transfer Window Planner to make sure that I establish the first transfer windows to get to Jool and to Duna. And those windows shall be used to launch our interplanetary probes. To do so, now I have to first unlock some technology nodes, and I want to go with ion engines because simply those have insane delta V or specific impulse, so that way we can actually put some very, very lightweight probes very, very far in the Kerman system, which is kind of the point. And now I'm trying to figure out other requirements. So, we still have, after unlocking the gas tanks and the xenon gas tanks and the ion engines, which we need now, we have 332 science left, so I'm trying to figure out, basically what to do with them. I don't want experimentals, orbital science is still too far off, so I'm thinking maybe to go somewhere along the lines of extending our docking and all those nodes below, so that we extend a little bit. I think this is the tree part going towards space stations, and we will get there soon because we will need an intermediary station for our future missions to the interplanetary space, so might as well unlock some more nodes that will help us in building stations, so like docking ports and stuff. And yeah, so then we have 57 more science, which we just consumed, and right now let us just assign some more additional upgrades to the R&D, vehicle assembly building, build queue, so we make sure that it's pretty fast, and whatever we have to put in for the spaceplane hangar. Because, we won't be usually building more than 2 at a time, so I feel that's enough. So, without further ado, let us go and construct something that would be actually very, very necessary before we send out our first interplanetary probe. And probably you might have guessed it, it's actually a communication satellite with a bigger antenna, obviously. So here you can see me constructing. It's basically very, very similar in design towards our short-range satellites. The only difference being that now we have a little bit more advanced batteries that we can use, and we have maybe a little bit larger antennas, so we can actually reach further in. And right now I'm adding 2 lights because they always look nice if you put green on one, red on the other. It just looks cool. So adding some solar panels. I wanted to add some RTGs, but they just started to seem very clunky and unpractical. So I figured, maybe we don't really need them. We're close to Kerbal, and yeah, we really don't need them. So putting some communication dishes, and those will be for communicating to active vessel and Duna. Those will not be sufficient for Jool, but for that one we will need to launch later one. It will be sufficient for Eve though, but Eve has not yet been explored, so that's why we didn't add it to the transfer window. We know that its range is close by, just we don't know the parameters that we would need to actually successfully eject towards Eve. So right now I'm thinking doing a little bit of overkill with the solar panels, but then again, if you think about it, these 3 communication dishes are pretty power hungry, and I don't want to run out of battery juice anytime very soon. So I'm thinking I'll put enough solar panels just to make sure that they're being properly refilled. Okay, cool. So let us retract, and I think this is what we would call a successful satellite. Adding a custom groups just for extension of the solar panels and communitrons and everything. So I'm calling it Satellite Medium Range CommSat Mark 1. And now I've changed the route, so I attached by its bottom part so that I could easily attach these guys at the towards the communication satellite deployer. So time to build the actual deployer. So we will follow our traditional design, which you have seen me do many times in the remote tech guide, and even similar to the previous launch. Now we have the bicouplers, which facilitate things for us a little bit. So I'm gonna put a total of 4. Well, I'm thinking 3 should be enough and 3 should suffice. However, it doesn't hurt to have 1 more. So let us just quickly put some batteries. Some food capsules and some gas we need. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, let us just put some fuel first, then food and supplies canisters, and also some waste canisters, just to make sure that our Kerbonaut who will be going up will have enough snacks and, well, life support to last the mission, because you've probably noticed Kerbals are very hungry buggers. So okay, and now I'm putting the satellite. And I'm planning putting this 4. And right now I'm looking, yeah, okay, well, let us continue constructing the rest of this. It will take me a while until I really figure out that first putting the Terrier beneath on the deployer craft. It will take me a while until I figure out one small flaw in my design. Well, not such small flaw if I had really launched it, but if you think about it, yeah, this 4 satellites are not put on decouplers, so I wouldn't be able to launch them one at a time. I would only be able to launch them as 4 in a group. I did realize this later in the design, so I'll fix it, but yeah. At the time of making this part, I was just more focused on doing the lander, and at some point I realized, okay, I need an SAS here, and wait, yeah. So let us put us a fuel tank, a big one, and I'm perfectly aware that I always do an overkill when it comes in terms of the required delta V, but I just don't care. I want to make sure that my stuff gets into the orbit properly, and ultimately one of these days I will actually return the rocket back. So here you can see me fixing the real issue. So putting the couplers, 2, 4. Yeah, so that's the kind of idea, because you really do not want to deploy all 4 at once. It kind of defeats the purpose of having the satellites. And I wanted to make sure that my launcher stage has a little bit more delta V, so I'm thinking I'll probably add a little bit more, maybe. Well, maybe not, because we will be launching in the polar orbit. Remember, we were launching the initial stage, the initial short-range communication networks in equatorial orbit, and these, for visibility reasons, guys, should go to the polar orbit. So here I'm adding a little bit extra tank, simply because I thought, well, why the hell not? I have decent delta V and might as well, you know. Oh, not 4 fins only. And I have to check my staging a bit. So, building the vessel was built, and we're ready to launch. Today's mission will be piloted by HMV Kerman. If you were wondering where the name was chosen, it is chosen by a certain YouTuber who at some point in time I told him, okay, well, I'll just gonna put you in my series, and he said, well, cool, I've never been in any series. So, HMV, congratulations, you are getting to pilot this mission, launching 3 or 4 communication satellites, or medium-range communication satellites in the polar orbit. In case you were wondering who HMV is, probably most of you know him, but I will post link to his YouTube channel in the description of this video. He has some really cool KSP stuff, like currently Mission the Contractor, but I also urge you to check out Basis and also to check out Snacks. It was several series that he had. They were I find them very entertaining. Alright, so HMV, put our satellites please into polar orbit. Thank you. Just extending the solar panels on the deploying craft so that we don't run out of power. I found it more simple to actually rotate the whole rocket rather than just rotate the camera around. Well, I owe it to the quirkiness of the camera sometimes. Okay. Anyway, time for the circularization burn. This rocket has more than enough delta V. Okay, and we're pushing our apoapsis up to roughly 1.5 kilometers, 550. Well, that's good enough. So from this orbit we will be deploying our satellites. So, okay. Are you ready, HMV? Starting to activate our communitrons. And then I figured out if I will be deploying them upwards, it may not be the best idea to have all of them deployed, just in case I catch someone. So I'm thinking, okay, rather than doing that, I might actually be removing these and put it in a better way. So let's see. In the end, I decided it would be smarter to actually deactivate others and deploy them one at a time. Okay, so we're there, and I'm just trying to figure out what the delta V requirements are. Roughly 369, and I think each individual of our satellites has enough to perform the circularization burn themselves. So, and at this point, having this big ass rocket was actually becoming a pain, so I just say, oh well, whatever, let us just decouple, and let us decouple our first satellite. One thing that I wasn't paying attention was that I accidentally caught the solar panels of another satellite. Well, constellation solar panel debris. Well, no matter. I mean, we have 4 satellites. If one of them was basically destroyed, I will not deploy that one. Like I said, I'm really not the most efficient guy when it comes to deploying the satellites. But yeah, it will get the job done. So, okay, without further ado, I'm making sure that I'm pointing the right way, and I will be using the remote tech flight computer to do the burns. So, hold maneuver prograde, execute plan maneuver, and then just accelerate until we get to the maneuver node. It should be in roughly 2 minutes and 45 seconds. We'll ignore the maneuver node from the other craft. Okay, 8 seconds, and we have total of 515 delta V in our tanks, and we have 300 delta V to circularize, which is more than enough. I really like what these ant engines do for the small engines, what they do for the satellites. Extremely lightweight and still very good. So here we're just noting our apoapsis, and we are noting also our orbital period. It's very important to get maybe not the exact apoapsis and the periapsis, but orbital periods you should get as close as possible. And you can notice the orbital period in the left stack where you see apoapsis, periapsis, time to periapsis, etc. So there you can see. Okay, screeny. I think I'll use probably that one for the episode. I mean, this is maybe not the most glorious task in terms of deploying, these satellites, but it's a very necessary task. Honestly, I started building already the interplanetary probe that you will most likely be seeing in the next episode. And then in the middle of the building I realized, oh wow, well I'm putting a big antenna on that one, but my satellite network is not up to snuff. So then I realized, okay, that we really need one stage before that, and that is deploying the remote tech communication network first. And these Communitron 8888s should be enough to communicate as far as, as far as Eve, Duna, and others. So right now I have put satellite Kerman medium range ComSat 1. So yeah, and it talks to active vessel, to Duna, and to Eve. So at least I cover these 3 planets, which will be anyway my first focus of the exploration. So now I'm trying to get back to the deployer debris and see if I can do anything about it. So this is how you launch one satellite. So there are 3 more to launch. Now I'm trying to figure out which satellite did I destroy the solar panels. So I'm now trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So I'm also paying attention to how are my Communitron spreads, because what happened is one of the Communitrons accidentally picked up the solar panels of another satellite, and that's when we got debris. So time for another maneuver node. Putting it node prograde, execute maneuver. Oh, and by the way, it's usually a smart idea when you already said activate the engines, otherwise you won't be able to execute the maneuver. Like most of my episodes, this is a little bit time accelerated because, especially when it comes to deploying second and third satellite, it's mostly repetitive stuff, so we really don't need to cover it in that great of detail. Okay, so if you really want an accurate instructions in terms of how to pay attention that your satellites are evenly spaced, that your orbital periods are matching, etc., I will post a link here to my remote tech guide. I think it was episode either 3 or 4. I'll probably post to both of them, one of them being how to deploy a satellite network and another how to deploy an interplanetary satellite network, which this is. So this is more like interplanetary satellite network. Okay. I actually found out that the remote tech flight computer does an extremely good job, so it matches the orbital periods very, very close. And then if I really want to do some fine-tuning, which I always do, then I would thrust limit the engine, like really thrust limit to the bare minimum, and then slowly burn until I get a matching orbital period. And here I was trying basically to flip the spacecraft downwards, but I kind of never realized that my main mode of operations was my flight computer was still on and it was set to kill rotation. So I was kind of battling it at first. Later I realized what was really the problem, but yeah, well, sometimes you just don't see it, even if it's in front of your very nose. Okay, turn please. And then it says it doesn't want to. How nice of it. And then I tried shutting down the engines because I think, oh, well, it should be good enough. But then I realized, no, I really want to fix it. So yeah, I was kind of having a monologue where I was trying to convince myself that this should be done. So, yeah, now turning, and then I realized, well, holy crap, I flew initially with a flight computer, so I might as well point it orbit and retrograde. So, exactly. And now I'm thrust limiting the engines. Putting it to roughly 5.5, and then manually thrusting until the orbit period matches 3 hours, 2 minutes and 30.24 or something seconds, I think. Yeah. So, okay, time to return the thrust limiting and disabling the engines. Just in case we will need the satellites in the future. We have still 127 delta V, which should be decent. And time to launch the third satellite. Like I said, fourth satellite I will probably not deploy because it has its solar panels stripped. So, yeah. And after all, you only need 3, especially at this altitude. So, deploying the solar panels. I will probably not be showing all of them, deploying all of the satellites and matching the orbit so that they are equally spaced and stuff. I'll probably do it off camera because it takes a while, and I already shown this in like at least 2 of my videos, so I don't think going and matching this kind of would be an interesting gameplay, so yeah. So after we deploy the satellite, we would be returning HMV from his first mission. By the way, the one thing that I noticed in 0.90, if you have in the map disabled viewing of other objects, then you don't see even their orbits or anything. So I don't know if that's the work of some other mod or something, but yeah. You don't see other satellites around Kerman at this time because in the map view, in the tracking station, I have disabled them because I only wanted to see this probe. So, alright. Matching the final orbit. Making sure that I've putted everything correctly, node prograde, node retrograde, and to execute the planned maneuver. Okay, and time to do this fine alignment. Holding orbit retrograde and thrust limiting my engines. Also 3 hours, 2 minutes and 240-ish. 30.200 and something. Okay, I think it's close enough. Okay. And time to set the communication antennas. Active vessel. Eve. And Duna. Okay. So that kind of concludes our deployment of our satellite network. And now it's time to actually, and you see, once I've enabled it, everything started to popping back out. And when I press this, I think I actually went to a probe, because I realized I have not renamed this one. So, Sat, Kerman, Medium Range Communication Satellite 3. Cool. Like, renaming was one thing that I forgot. So now I flip to the deployer ship, and this one I'm activating and I'm extending panels, but I really will not be deploying that one. Just for fun reasons, I'll just point it retrograde and let it burn in the atmosphere. So, reducing our periapsis to some 22-ish, and I will be returning HMV, but somewhere on the re-entry we will be ditching the last satellite. Time for the re-entry. And here we go. Bye-bye satellite. Okay, and time to come home. HMV, as far as I'm concerned, you have done a successful mission. Don't worry about this one satellite, it was a spare anyway. So, thrusting, just to make sure that we slow down our descent. Okay, and descending ever so slowly. No science this mission, but still a very necessary one. And guys, we are coming up on the end to the end of this particular episode. I hope you liked the episode. It was a very necessary step to do before going interplanetary. Like the episode if you like the episode, and for more KSP content, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.